The air on Vrolix Prime smelled like rust and desperation. Day walked through the crowded marketplace, keeping his head down and his hands in his jacket pockets. He hated this place. Every corner had someone trying to sell something, and half of those things were living beings. Day was a cargo hauler. He transported medical supplies, food, and sometimes equipment between colonies. It was honest work, boring most of the time, but it paid enough to keep his ship running. The Wandering Star was small, old, and needed constant repairs, but it was his home. He had delivered a shipment of antibiotics to a clinic on the station's upper level. Now he just wanted to refuel and leave. But the fastest route to the fuel depot went straight through the slave markets. Day tried not to look. He had seen slavery before in the outer systems. Most alien species thought it was normal, just part of how business worked. Humans were different. Earth had banned slavery centuries ago, and every human colony followed the same law. But out here, human laws meant nothing. The slaves were kept in clear cages stacked 3 high. Some were aliens Day recognized, others he had never seen before. They sat or stood in silence. Most looked at the ground. A few watched the crowds with empty eyes. Day walked faster. This was not his problem. He could not save everyone. He could barely afford to keep himself fed. Then he heard a voice. "Human, please." Day stopped. He should not have stopped, but something in that voice made him turn around. A young female alien sat in one of the lower cages. She had pale blue skin and silver hair that fell past her shoulders. Her eyes were large and dark, fixed directly on him. She was Valerian, Day realized. He had met a few Valerians before. They were peaceful people, good with machines and engineering. "Please," she said again. Her galactic common was rough but understandable. "Buy me." Day felt his stomach twist. "I cannot," he said quietly. "I am sorry. Please." She gripped the bars of her cage. "My owner will sell me to the mines. I will die there. Please, you are human. Humans are different, please." A fat, slug-like alien slithered over. This was Beck, the slave merchant. Dee had seen him before on previous stops. Everyone knew Beck. Ah, human. Beck's voice was oily and too friendly. "You have good taste. This one is young, healthy, smart, very rare. Valerians make excellent workers." "I am not interested," Day said. "She can read star charts, fix engines, cook, clean." Beck continued, ignoring him. "Only 15,000 credits. A bargain. 15,000 credits. That was almost everything Day had saved in the past year. "I do not buy slaves," Day said firmly. The girl's eyes filled with tears, but she did not look away from him. "Please, I will work hard. I will do anything. Please do not leave me here." Beck laughed. "She begs nicely, yes? But if you are not buying, move along. You are blocking my display." A large armored alien approached from the other side. He looked at the Valerian girl and grunted. "This one." "How much?" 18,000, Beck said immediately, the price jumping up. "I take her to the mines," the armored alien said. 12,000. Beck pretended to think. "For the mines?" 15,000. "She will last you at least 6 months if you feed her." The girl's face went pale. She looked at Day one more time. "Please," she whispered. Day closed his eyes. This was stupid. This was so incredibly stupid. He was going to regret this. 20,000, Day said. "I will pay 20,000, but I take her now." Beck's eyes widened with greed. The armored alien growled and walked away. 20,000. "Excellent. You have made a fine purchase, human. Come, we do the paperwork." 10 minutes later, Day walked through the marketplace with the Valerian girl following 3 steps behind him. Beck had given him a datapad with her slave contract on it. Her name was Nari. She was 23 years old. She had been a slave for 11 years. Day felt sick. Other aliens stared as they passed. A human with a slave was unusual. Humans were known for their strange ideas about freedom and rights. Most aliens thought humans were naive and foolish. The Wandering Star was docked in Bay 17. It was not a pretty ship. The hull was scratched and dented. One of the engines made a grinding noise that Day had been meaning to fix for months. But it flew and it was home. Nari stopped at the bottom of the boarding ramp. "What do you want me to do first, Master?" she asked quietly. That word made Day's skin crawl. "Do not call me that," he said. "Just come inside." The ship's interior was small. There was a cockpit up front, a tiny galley and living area in the middle, and 2 sleeping cabins in the back. It was messy. Day was not good at keeping things organized. Nari stood by the door, her hands clasped in front of her, waiting for orders. Day pulled out the datapad with her contract. He opened the file and stared at it for a moment. Then he deleted it. "What are you doing?" Nari asked, her voice rising in panic. "I am freeing you," Day said. He held up the datapad. "Look, no more contract. You are not a slave anymore." Nari stared at the empty screen. Then she stared at Day. "I do not understand." "You are free," Day repeated. "I do not own you." "Nobody does. You can go wherever you want." Nari's legs seemed to give out. She sat down hard on the floor. "This is a test," she said. "You want to see if I will try to run. Then you will punish me." "No," Day said, kneeling down so they were at eye level. "This is not a test. I do not believe in slavery. I bought you so I could free you. That is all. But you paid 20,000 credits. I know. It was stupid. But I could not just leave you there." Nari was silent for a long time. Then she started to cry. Not quiet tears, but deep shaking sobs that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside her. Day did not know what to do. He was not good with emotions. Finally, he just sat down next to her and waited. When she finally stopped crying, Nari looked at him with red, swollen eyes. "Where do you want me to go?" she asked. "Anywhere you want," Day said. "Do you have family? A home planet?" Nari shook her head. "My family is dead. My world was raided by pirates when I was 12. I have been a slave since then. I have nowhere to go." "Then you can stay here for a while," Day offered, "until you figure out what you want to do. I can drop you off at a colony somewhere. Find you work." "I want to stay with you," Nari said quickly. "You do not have to." "I know. But I want to. Please let me stay. Let me work for you. I can help with the ship. I'm good with engines." Day hesitated. "You would not be my slave. You would be crew. That means you get paid and you can leave whenever you want." "I understand. And you can sleep in the second cabin. Not on the floor, not in a cage. In a real bed," Nari nodded. "All right," Day said. "You can stay." They sat there in silence for a moment. Then Day's communicator beeped. He pulled it out and read the message. His face went pale. "What is wrong?" Nari asked. "Beck reported us to station security," Day said. "He says I destroyed valuable property. There is a bounty on both of us now." Nari stood up quickly. "I will go back. I will tell them it was my fault." "No." Day stood too. "We are leaving. Right now." He moved to the cockpit and started the launch sequence. Nari followed him, watching everything he did. "Strap in," Day said, pointing to the co-pilot's seat. As the wandering star lifted off from Vrolix Prime, Day looked over at Nari. She was staring out the window at the stars, her hand pressed against the glass. "Thank you," she whispered. Day did not answer. He was too busy running calculations in his head. A bounty meant hunters would come. Life had just gotten very complicated. But when he glanced at Nari again and saw the wonder in her eyes, he thought maybe it was worth it. Part 2, The Price of Freedom. The wandering star jumped to hyperspace 3 hours after leaving Vrolix Prime. Day set the autopilot and leaned back in his chair. His shoulders ached from tension. His bank account was almost empty, and he now had a passenger who did not understand what freedom meant. Nari sat perfectly still in the co-pilot seat. She had not moved since they launched. Her hands were folded in her lap. She barely breathed. "You can relax," Day said. "We are safe for now." "Yes, Master." "Do not call me that. I am sorry." "What should I call you?" "My name is Day, just Day." Nari nodded but looked uncomfortable. Using an owner's name was probably forbidden wherever she had been kept. Day stood up. "Are you hungry?" Nari hesitated. "Am I allowed to eat?" That question made Day want to punch something. "You can eat whenever you want. You do not need permission. Come on." He led her to the small galley. It was not much, just a food processor, a table with 2 seats and storage compartments. Day pulled out 2 ration packs and heated them up. The food was not great, but it was filling. He put 1 plate in front of Nari and sat down with the other. Nari stared at her food but did not touch it. "What is wrong?" Day asked. "Slaves eat after the master eats," Nari said quietly. "I am not your master. Eat." Nari picked up her fork with shaking hands. She took a small bite, then another. Suddenly she was eating fast, almost choking on the food. "Slow down," Day said gently. "There is more if you want it." Nari stopped. Tears ran down her face. "I am sorry. I forgot my manners. You have nothing to apologize for." After they ate, Day showed Nari the rest of the ship. The second sleeping cabin was tiny, barely big enough for a bed and a small locker. But it had a door that locked from the inside. "This is yours," Day said. "Your space. Nobody can come in unless you say so." Nari walked into the cabin slowly. She touched the bed like she was afraid it might disappear. "I have never had a door before," she whispered. "Well, you do now." That night, Day lay in his own cabin and stared at the ceiling. What had he done? He had no plan. He barely had enough money for fuel, and now he had someone depending on him. His communicator buzzed. It was a message from his contact on New Jeju, a human colony world. The message was short. "Heard about Vrolix. Are you insane? The Slavers Guild is furious. Watch your back." Day deleted the message and tried to sleep. It took a long time. The next morning, Day found Nari sleeping on the floor of her cabin, curled up in a corner. The bed had not been touched. He knocked on the doorframe. "Nari?" She woke up immediately, scrambling to her feet. "I am sorry. I overslept."
"What do you need me to do?"
"Why are you sleeping on the floor?" Nari looked confused. "The bed is too soft. I could not sleep on it. It felt wrong." Day felt that familiar anger again. Not at Nari, but at everyone who had made her this way. "The bed is yours. You can use it or not use it. Whatever makes you comfortable." "Yes, Ma." "Yes, Day." Over the next few days, a routine developed. Day worked on his cargo contracts, delivering supplies to small stations and colonies. Nari watched everything he did. She memorized the controls, the navigation charts, the maintenance schedules. Day started to teach her. He showed her how to read the star maps, how to calculate jump coordinates, how to check the engine pressure levels. Nari learned fast. She asked good questions and remembered everything. "You are good at this," Day said one day as Nari successfully plotted their next jump. Nari looked surprised. "Thank you. Did you work with ships before?" "Sometimes. When I was sold to a mechanic on Taylor Station, he taught me to fix things. He was not as cruel as some others." Day wanted to ask more, but Nari's face had closed off. Some memories were too painful to touch. 3 weeks after leaving Vrolix Prime, they docked at a small station called Haven's Rest to refuel. Day needed to pick up parts for the ship's navigation system. "I want you to go to the supply shop," Day said to Nari. He handed her his credit chip. "Get the items on this list." Nari stared at the credit chip like it was a live bomb. "You want me to go alone?" "Yes, the shop is 2 levels up. You can handle it, but what if I make a mistake? What if I lose the chip? Then we will figure it out." "I trust you." Nari took the chip with trembling hands. She left the ship walking like someone going to face execution. Day watched her go on the security feed. He was testing her, yes, but not in the way she probably thought. He wanted to see if she could do something on her own, if she could start to believe in herself. 40 minutes later, Nari returned. She was shaking but smiling. "I got everything," she said, holding up a bag of parts. "The shopkeeper tried to overcharge me, but I remembered the prices you told me about. I negotiated him down." Day felt a surge of pride. "Good job. I did it," Nari said, still smiling. "I actually did it." That smile stayed on her face for hours. It was the first time Day had seen her look truly happy, but their luck could not last forever. 2 days later, they were approaching a small mining colony when alarms blared across the ship. Another vessel had appeared on their sensors, closing fast. "What is that?" Nari asked, her voice tight with fear. Day checked the identification beacon. His blood went cold. "Bounty hunter!" The communication system crackled. A deep, harsh voice filled the cockpit. "Human vessel Wandering Star, this is Krev. You are wanted for contract violation and theft. Surrender the Valerian slave and I will let you live." Day did not answer. He was too busy plotting an escape route. "I will go with him," Nari said quietly. "You should not suffer for me." "No. Day, please. You freed me. That is more than anyone else has ever done. I will not let you die for me." Nani said no. Day's hands moved across the controls. "Hold on." The Wandering Star dove toward the planet's atmosphere. The bounty hunter's ship, bigger and faster, followed close behind. Weapons fire flashed past them. They were not going to make it. The other ship was too fast, too powerful. Then Nari leaned forward. "Wait, there is an asteroid field at bearing 273. If we can reach it, we can hide." "How do you know that?" "I studied the navigation charts last night. There are 17 asteroids big enough to hide behind." Day made the decision in a split second. He turned the ship hard, engines screaming in protest. They shot toward the asteroid field with Krev right behind them. Inside the field, Day weaved between spinning rocks. The wandering star was small and could turn quickly. The bounty hunter's ship was not. Behind the big one on the left, Nari said, her voice steady now. Cut the engines. Day followed her instructions. They slipped behind a massive asteroid and shut down everything except life support. They floated in silence. On the sensors, they watched Krev's ship pass by, searching. After 10 minutes, it jumped away. Day let out a breath he had not known he was holding. You saved us. Nari looked down at her hands. I just remembered the charts. You did more than that. You stayed calm. You made the right call. I could not let you die, not after what you did for me. They stayed in the asteroid field for 2 hours before carefully leaving. As they jumped to hyperspace, Day looked over at Nari. She was different now. Still scared, still uncertain, but there was something new in her eyes. Confidence maybe, or hope. We need to get somewhere safe, Day said. Somewhere the guild cannot reach us easily. Where? New Jeju, it is a human colony. We will be protected there, Nari nodded. Then she asked quietly, Day, why did you save me, really? Day thought about it. Because nobody should be owned, he finally said. Because you asked for help and I could not say no. Because it was the right thing to do. But you lost all your money. You are being hunted. Your life is in danger. I know. Was it worth it? Day looked at her. 3 weeks ago, she had been a terrified slave who could not even eat without permission. Now she was learning to navigate, making decisions, saving their lives. Yes, he said. It was worth it. Nari smiled. It was small and uncertain, but it was real. The wandering star flew through hyperspace toward New Jeju, carrying 2 people who were both learning what freedom really meant. Part 3. Learning to stand New Jeju appeared on the view screen like a blue and green jewel floating in space. Day felt his shoulders relax for the first time in weeks. This was human space. Here, the laws he believed in actually meant something. Nari pressed her face close to the window. It is beautiful, she said. Wait until you see the surface, Day replied. The founders came from Korea on Earth. They brought cherry trees and built gardens everywhere. Spring is the best time to visit. They landed at the main spaceport without any trouble. As they walked down the ramp, Nari stayed close to Day's side. She watched everything with wide eyes. Humans moved all around them, talking and laughing. Children ran past, chasing each other. Nobody was in chains. Nobody looked afraid. Are all human worlds like this? Nari asked quietly. More or less, Day said. We have problems like everyone else, but slavery is not one of them. The colonial administrator, a woman named Hana, met them at the Port Authority office. She was in her 50s with sharp eyes and a kind smile. Day, she said, shaking his hand. I heard you made quite a splash on Vrolix Prime. News travels. Especially when the slavers. Guild is screaming about stolen property. Hana looked at Nari. You must be Nari. Welcome to New Jeju. Nari bowed deeply, the way a slave would bow to someone important. Hana frowned. None of that here, Hana said gently. We do not bow like that. Just a handshake or a nod is fine. Nari straightened up, looking embarrassed. Hana held out her hand. After a moment, Nari shook it. Better, Hana said. She turned back to Day. I can give you sanctuary here, but I need to be honest. The guild has connections everywhere. Even here, you might not be completely safe, and that bounty hunter Krev is still looking for you. I know, Day said, but we need time to figure out our next move. You can stay as long as you need. I have a guest house you can use. It is small, but it is comfortable. The guest house was on the edge of a small town called Songdo. It had 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a garden full of flowers. Nari walked through it slowly, touching everything like she was afraid it might vanish. This is for us? She asked. For now, Day said. That night, Nari slept in a real bed for the first time. In the morning, Day found her in the kitchen, staring at the food processor. I wanted to make breakfast, she said, but I do not know how to use this. Day showed her. They made rice and eggs together. It was simple food, but Nari ate it like it was the best meal she had ever had. Over the next few weeks, life settled into a new rhythm. Day worked on repairing the wandering star. The ship had taken damage during the chase with Krev and parts were expensive. His savings were gone, so he took small jobs around the colony to earn money. Nari went with him everywhere at first, but slowly she started to explore on her own. She walked to the market alone. She talked to other people. She learned to use the public transit system. One day, Day came back to the guest house and found Nari working on a small engine in the garden. It was from a broken power generator that someone had thrown away. "What are you doing?" Day asked. "Fixing it," Nari said. "I thought maybe we could sell it to help pay for the ship repairs." She had taken the whole thing apart and was carefully cleaning each piece. Her hands moved with confidence now, not the scared, hesitant movements from before. "That is a good idea," Day said. Nari fixed the generator and sold it for 200 credits. Then she found another broken machine and fixed that too. Word spread quickly. Soon people were bringing her things to repair. She was good at it. Better than most of the local mechanics. Within a month she had earned 3,000 credits. "This is yours," she told Day, trying to give him the money. "No," Day said. "You earned it. It is yours to keep. But I owe you so much more than this. You do not owe me anything. That money is yours. Save it. Use it for whatever you want." Nari stared at the credit chip in her hand. "I have never had my own money before," she whispered. "Well, you do now." Day started teaching Nari more about flying. They would sit in the Wandering Star's cockpit, and he would walk her through different scenarios: emergency landings, system failures, jump calculations under pressure. Nari learned everything fast. She had a natural talent for it. Within weeks, she could handle basic flight operations on her own. "You could get a pilot's license," Day said one day. "Become a professional pilot." "Do you think I could?" "I know you could." One evening, they were sitting in the garden watching the sunset. Nari had been quiet all day, which was unusual. She had become more talkative over the past weeks, asking questions about everything. "What is wrong?" Day finally asked. "I have been thinking," Nari said slowly, "about my people, about Valerians. We are not warriors. We do not fight. When the pirates came to my world, we did not know how to defend ourselves. That is why so many of us became slaves. That is not your fault. I know, but I keep thinking about the others. The ones still trapped, the ones in cages on Vrolix Prime and 1,000 other places." She looked at Day. "Do you ever think about going back, to free more of them?" "Sometimes," Day admitted. "But it is dangerous. We barely escaped with our lives." "I know, but I cannot stop thinking about it." They sat in silence for a while. The sky turned from orange to purple to dark blue. The next morning, Hannah came to visit. She looked worried. "I just received a message from one of my contacts," she said. "Krev is in the system. He knows you are here." Day felt ice in his stomach. "How?" "Someone must have talked." "I am sorry, Day. I did my best to keep it quiet. What do we do?" Nari asked. "He cannot just attack you here," Hannah said. "This is human territory. But he is putting pressure on the colonial government. He has lawyers, legal documents, all kinds of official paperwork saying you stole property. Nari is not property. I know that. You know that. But galactic law is complicated. The guild has filed a formal complaint. There is going to be a hearing." "A hearing?" Day repeated. "Yes. At Nexus Point, the neutral arbitration station. Both sides will present their case. A panel of judges will decide who is right. That is ridiculous. They want to put freedom on trial? Unfortunately, yes. But here is the thing. If you refuse to go, you look guilty. And Krev will have legal grounds to hunt you anywhere. But if you go to the hearing and win, the bounty gets lifted. You will be free to travel without looking over your shoulder." Day looked at Nari. "What do you think?" Nari was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I think we should go. I am tired of hiding. I am tired of being afraid. If there is a chance to end this, we should take it. It could be dangerous. Being a slave was dangerous. Running from Krev was dangerous. This is just another kind of danger. But maybe this time we can win for real." Day thought about it. She was right. They could keep running, but the bounty would always be there. Krev would always be hunting them. This was a chance to end it. "All right," he said. "We will go to the hearing," Hannah nodded. "I will arrange transport on a secure ship, and I will contact Minho. He is a human legal expert who specializes in galactic law. If anyone can help you win this case, it is him." Over the next week, they prepared for the journey. Nari spent her free time reading about galactic law and the history of slavery in different cultures. Day practiced what he would say, how he would defend his actions. The night before they left, Nari cooked dinner. She had learned to use the kitchen well. The food was simple but good. "Are you scared?" Day asked. "Yes," Nari said honestly. But I am also angry. For 11 years I was a slave. I was beaten, starved, and treated like an object. Nobody cared. Nobody helped. Until you. I just did what anyone should do. No, most people just walk past. They do not want to get involved. You were different. You saw someone in pain and you helped even when it cost you everything. She looked at him across the table. I want other people to see that. I want them to understand that slavery is wrong, no matter what their culture says. Maybe this hearing is a chance to make them see. Maybe, Day said. Or maybe they will just rule against us and we will be worse off than before. Then at least we tried. They left for Nexus Point the next morning. The transport ship was fast and comfortable. Other passengers gave them curious looks. Word had spread about the case. Some people looked supportive. Others looked disgusted. As they traveled through hyperspace, Dai watched Nari. She was not the same person he had bought on Vrolix Prime. That person had been broken, terrified, unable to even eat without permission. This Nari sat straight. She met people's eyes. She spoke with confidence. She had learned to stand on her own. Whatever happened at the hearing, Day thought that change was worth it. Part 4. The Hunter and the Hunted Nexus Point was huge. The station floated between 3 different star systems, serving as a neutral meeting ground for different species and governments. Ships from 100 worlds docked at its ports. The halls were crowded with aliens of every shape and size. Dai and Nari arrived with Hana and Minho, the legal expert. Minho was a thin man with tired eyes and sharp mind. He had spent 20 years studying galactic law and had never lost a case involving human rights. The hearing is in 3 days, Minho explained as they walked through the station. That gives us time to prepare. The guild will have their best lawyers. They see this case as important because if they lose, it could set a precedent. Other people might start freeing slaves too. Good, Nari said quietly. They were given quarters in the human section of the station. It was clean and safe, but Dave felt exposed. This place was too open, too public. Anyone could be watching. His fears were confirmed that evening. A message arrived on his communicator. It was short and threatening. I'm here. You cannot hide forever. Surrender the property or face consequences. Krev. He is trying to scare us, Minho said when Day showed him the message. It is working, Day replied. That night, Day could not sleep. He kept thinking about Krev. The bounty hunter was known across the outer systems. He was a Skaloth, a species of large reptilian aliens known for their strength and patience. Krev had been hunting people for 30 years. He never failed to collect a bounty. The next morning, Minho began preparing them for the hearing. He asked Nari hundreds of questions about her past, her treatment as a slave, her feelings about freedom. Some of the questions made Nari cry. Day wanted to stop the session, but Nari insisted on continuing. If they ask me these things at the hearing, I need to be ready, she said, wiping her eyes. Minho also prepared Day. They will try to make you look like a criminal, he warned. They will say you broke the law, that you stole valuable property, that you are trying to force your human values on other cultures. You need to stay calm and stick to the truth. What if the truth is not enough? Then we lose. But I do not think we will. I have been studying the judges assigned to this case. 2 of them come from species that outlawed slavery in the past century. They might be sympathetic. On the second day, Day decided to take Nari out to see the station. She had been cooped up in their quarters too long, and the stress was showing on her face. They walked through the market district, looking at goods from across the galaxy. Nari stopped at a stall selling fabrics. She reached out to touch a piece of soft blue cloth, then pulled her hand back. You can touch it, the vendor said. He was a friendly alien with 4 arms and a kind smile. Nari touched the cloth hesitantly. It is beautiful. It is from my home world. Would you like to buy some? Nari looked at Day. Can I? You have your own money, Day reminded her. You decide. Nari bought 2 meters of the blue cloth. She held it carefully as they continued walking. I want to make something with this, she said. Maybe a blanket. Or a shirt. I used to sew before. She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. They were heading back to their quarters when Dee felt someone watching them. He looked around and saw a massive figure standing near a pillar. The alien was over 2 meters tall, covered in dark green scales with yellow eyes that tracked their movement. Krev. Keep walking, Day said quietly to Nari. Do not look back. What is wrong? Krev is here. Just keep walking. They made it back to their quarters without incident, but Day knew the bounty hunter was sending a message. He was watching. He was waiting. That night there was a knock on their door. Dee opened it carefully and found Hana standing there looking worried. We have a problem, she said. The guild just filed additional charges. They are claiming that by freeing Nari, you inspired other slaves to rebel. Apparently, there was an attempted escape on Vrolix Prime last week. Several slaves tried to run and some of them mentioned your name. That is not my fault, Day said. I know, but they are trying to make you responsible. They want to prove that freeing slaves causes chaos and violence. The only chaos is what the slavers created in the first place, Nari said. Hana smiled sadly. I agree. But in galactic law, things are not always that simple. The night before the hearing, Day and Nari sat together in their small quarters. Either could sleep. Are you afraid? Nari asked. Yes, Day admitted. If we lose, they will take you back. I cannot let that happen. If we lose, I will run. I will find a way to escape. I will never go back to being a slave. You should not have to run. I know. But I will if I must. I would rather die free than live in chains. He looked at her. In the soft light, he could see how much she had changed. The scared girl from the slave market was gone. In her place was a strong woman who knew her worth. Whatever happens tomorrow, Day said, I am glad I met you, even if this whole thing ends badly. I do not regret buying you and setting you free. Nari reached over and took his hand. Thank you, she said. For everything. You gave me back my life. They sat like that for a long time, just holding hands in the dark. The hearing began at sunrise. The courtroom was enormous with seats for hundreds of observers. The judges sat on a high platform, 3 aliens from 3 different species. The guild's lawyers were on one side, wearing expensive clothes and looking confident. Day and Nari sat on the other side with Minho. The lead guild lawyer was a Vrelian named Tors. He was tall and elegant with smooth skin that changed colors when he talked. He spoke in a rich, persuasive voice. Honorable judges, Tors began. This is a simple case of theft and property destruction. The defendant, Day, purchased a legally owned slave and then destroyed the contract without following proper manumission procedures. This is a clear violation of galactic commercial law. Tors went on for an hour, explaining how Day's actions had hurt the guild's business, how it had inspired slave rebellions, how humans were trying to force their values on other cultures. Then it was Minho's turn. Honorable judges, Minho said. This is not a case about property or commerce. This is a case about fundamental rights. The question before you is simple. Can one sentient being own another? Minho talked about human history, about the centuries it took Earth to abolish slavery, about the moral progress that came with recognizing everyone's right to freedom. He was passionate and clear. Then he called Nari to testify. Nari walked to the witness stand. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. Tell us about your life as a slave, Minho said gently. Nari took a deep breath. Then she spoke. She told them about the day the pirates came. She was 12 years old, playing with her friends near her home. She described the screaming, the fire, the moment she was dragged onto a ship and sold. She talked about the years that followed. The beatings when she was too slow. The hunger when food was withheld as punishment. The cold nights sleeping on hard floors. The fear that never went away. I forgot what it felt like to be a person, Nari said. I was just a thing. An object that could be used and thrown away. I forgot my own name sometimes because no one used it. I was just slave or girl or that one. The courtroom was silent. Even the guild lawyers looked uncomfortable. Then I met Day, Nari continued, and he did something impossible. He saw me, not as a thing but as a person. He paid everything he had to buy me, and then he freed me. Why do you think he did that? Minho asked. Because he is human. Because humans believe that freedom is not something you earn. It is something you have just by being alive. Tors stood up. Objection. The witness is making philosophical arguments, not providing facts. The witness is explaining her experience, Minho countered. That is what testimony is. The judges conferred. Then the head judge said, the witness may continue. Nari talked for another hour. She described how Day taught her to fly, to make her own choices, to believe in herself. She explained how terrifying freedom was at first and how wonderful it became. I am not property. Nari said finally. I never was. The contract that Beck sold to Day was wrong from the beginning. You cannot sell a person because people are not things. When she finished, there was silence in the courtroom. Then slowly some people in the audience began to applaud. The judges called for order. After Nari testified, Dai took the stand. He explained his actions simply. He saw someone suffering and he helped. That was all. Did you know you were breaking the law? Torres asked during cross-examination. I knew that some species consider slavery legal, Day said. But I do not recognize laws that treat people as objects. Some laws are wrong and wrong laws should be broken. The hearing lasted 3 days. Witnesses came from both sides. Experts talked about law and tradition and commerce. But in the end, it came down to one question. Was Nari a person or property? On the final day, the judges announced they needed time to deliberate. Everyone was dismissed. As Dai and Nari left the courtroom, they saw Krev waiting in the hall. The bounty hunter looked at them with cold yellow eyes. This is not over, Krev said. Whatever the judges decide, I will be watching. Then watch, Nari said, surprising everyone, including herself. Watch us be free, Krev said nothing. He just turned and walked away. They would have to wait 3 more days for the verdict. Part 6, The Cost of Defiance. Rolex Prime looked exactly as Day remembered it. Dark, crowded, and full of desperate people selling desperate things. As their transport ship docked, Dee felt his stomach tighten. Coming back here was a mistake, he knew it. But Nari's determined face reminded him why they had to try. Their team consisted of 7 people. Day and Nari, plus 3 human volunteers named Somin, Taiho, and Inho. They were all former colony security officers who knew how to handle weapons in tough situations. Then there was Minho, who carried the forged documents, and June, who would pilot their escape ship. Remember the plan, Minho said as they gathered in the docking bay. We go in as legitimate buyers. We show the papers, pay the fees, and leave. No heroics. No unnecessary risks. What if something goes wrong? Salman asked. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and quick hands. Then we run, Day said simply. Getting caught means prison at best, death at worst. If the plan falls apart, everyone heads to the ships and we jump out of system. They split into 2 groups. Minho, Salman, and Taiho would go to the administrative offices to file the purchase papers. Day, Nari, Inho, and June would go to the slave markets to locate Yuna and the other Valerians. The markets were just as horrible as Day remembered. Maybe worse. The cages seemed more crowded. The slaves looked thinner, more desperate. Nari walked through it with her jaw clenched, her hands in fists. There, Nari whispered, pointing to a cage in the back section. A young Valerian woman sat alone in a small cage. She had the same pale blue skin and silver hair as Nari, but her face was covered in bruises. She stared at nothing, her eyes empty. Yuna, Nari called softly. The woman looked up. For a moment, there was no recognition. Then her eyes widened. Nari? Yuna whispered. You are alive. Yes, and I am going to get you out of here. Before they could say more, Beck appeared. The fat slug-like merchant looked at Nari and his eyes went wide with rage. You, Beck shouted. You are supposed to be gone. The human freed you. He did, Nari said, standing tall. I am a free person now, and I'm here to buy this slave legally. Beck laughed, a wet, disgusting sound. You have no money, and even if you did, I would never sell to you. Security! 2 large guards started moving toward them. Inho stepped forward, hand on his weapon. We have legal purchase orders, Day said quickly, trying to defuse the situation. Signed by Galactic authorities. We have the right to be here. I do not care about your papers, Beck snarled. You destroyed my property. You cost me money. Guards, arrest them. Everything happened fast. Inho pulled his weapon and fired a warning shot over the guards' heads. The marketplace erupted into chaos. People screamed and ran. Slaves huddled in their cages. Get Yuna, Day shouted. June was already working on the cage lock with a special tool. The cage door opened and Yuna stumbled out, weak from malnutrition. Can you run? Nari asked, supporting her friend. I can try. They ran. Behind them, alarms screamed. More guards were coming from all directions. The plan had fallen apart in seconds. Day's communicator buzzed. It was Minho. What is happening? I hear alarms. Beck made us. Plan is dead. Get to the ship. They raced through the marketplace, dodging vendors and panicking crowds. Inho and June provided cover, firing at guards who got too close. Day helped Nari carry Yuna, who could barely walk. As they ran past the other slave cages, Nari made a decision. She stopped at a control panel near the wall. "What are you doing?" Day yelled. "I cannot leave them," Nari said. She smashed the panel with the butt of Inho's spare weapon. Sparks flew. Then every cage in the section opened at once. Dozens of slaves poured out into the marketplace. Most ran in random directions, just desperate to be free. The guards did not know who to chase. The confusion bought them precious seconds. They made it to the docking bay where their ship waited. Soman and Taiho were already there, weapons ready. Minho was in the ship running the launch sequence. "Everyone aboard," Day shouted. But as they reached the ramp, shots rang out from behind them. June cried out and fell. Blood spread across his shoulder. Taiho ran back and grabbed June, dragging him toward the ship. More shots hit the hull around them. Inho returned fire, keeping the guards back. They all made it inside. The ramp closed. The ship lifted off just as more security forces arrived. "They are scrambling fighters," Minho said from the pilot's seat. "We have maybe 2 minutes before they catch us." The ship shot out of the docking bay and into open space. Behind them, 3 security fighters launched in pursuit. "I can lose them in the asteroid field," Minho said, but his hands were shaking. He was a lawyer, not a combat pilot. "Let me," Nari said. She slid into the co-pilot seat. "I know this ship type. I can handle it." Nari's hands flew over the controls. The ship dove toward the nearby asteroid field, the same one where Day and Nari had hidden from Krev months before. The security fighters followed, firing constantly. Inside the ship, Soman was working on June's wound. "It is bad," she said. "He needs a real medical facility." "Just keep him alive," Day said. Nari piloted the ship through the asteroids with incredible skill. She spun, dove, and twisted through gaps that seemed impossible. One of the security fighters clipped an asteroid and exploded. The other 2 kept coming. "There." Nari pointed to a large asteroid with a cave opening. "We can hide in there." She flew the ship into the cave and killed the engines. They floated in darkness, watching on sensors as the 2 remaining fighters searched outside. For 15 minutes, nobody breathed. The fighters circled the asteroid field, scanning for heat signatures. Finally, they gave up and left. "We made it," Taiho whispered. But the cost was clear. June was badly wounded. They had saved Yuna, but they had also released dozens of slaves into a dangerous station with no plan to help them. And worst of all, their cover was completely blown. Everyone in the galaxy would know what they tried to do. They stayed in the asteroid cave for 6 hours, treating June's wound as best they could and letting the ship's systems cool down. Yuna sat with Nari, holding her hand and crying. "I thought I would die in those mines," Yuna said. "Thank you. Thank you for not forgetting me." "I could never forget you," Nari said. When it was finally safe, they made the jump to hyperspace, heading back toward human territory. But halfway there, they received a transmission. It was being broadcast on all frequencies. A Vrelian official appeared on the screen. "To the human criminals who attacked Vrolix Prime, you have committed acts of terrorism and theft. You released dangerous criminals into our station, causing chaos and property damage. Bounties have been placed on all of you. You will be found. You will be punished." Then Beck's face appeared. "Special bounty on the female Valarian called Nari. 100,000 credits. She is the cause of all this trouble. She must be made an example." Day turned off the transmission. Everyone in the ship was silent. "I am sorry," Nari said quietly. "I should not have opened those cages. I made it worse." "No," someone said. "You gave those people a chance. Some of them will die, yes, but some might escape. Some might find freedom. That is worth something. We need to disappear for a while," Minho said. "Go somewhere remote. Let things cool down." But as they traveled through hyperspace, another transmission came through. This one was different. It was from one of the slaves Nari had freed, a young alien female. "Thank you," the message said simply. "I do not know who you are, but you opened my cage. I escaped the station. I am free now. Thank you." Then another message came, and another. Over the next few hours, they received 17 messages from freed slaves who had made it off Rolix Prime alive. Some went to hiding places. Some made it to ships. A few even reached human colonies. "You did this," they said to Nari. "You saved 17 people. But how many died trying to escape? I do not know. But those 17 are alive because of you." When they finally reached New Jeju, Hana was waiting at the spaceport. She looked furious. "Do you know what you have done?" she said. The Galactic News is calling you terrorists. The Guild has tripled their bounties. Every hunter in the outer systems is looking for you. I know, Day said. I am sorry. We will leave if we are putting the colony in danger. Hana's expression softened slightly. I did not say you had to leave. I just wish you had been more careful. She looked at Yuna, who was being carried off the ship on a stretcher. But I am glad you saved your friend. They took June and Yuna to the medical center. Both would survive, but recovery would take weeks. The rest of the team scattered, going into hiding or returning to their regular lives. Dai and Nari were given a safe house on the edge of the colony. They had to stay hidden for now, but at least they were alive. That night, as they sat in the dark house, Nari said, "Do you regret it? Going back to Vrolix Prime?" Day thought about it. No, it was dangerous and stupid, but we saved Yuna. We gave others a chance. How can I regret that? We cannot keep doing this, though. Eventually, we will run out of luck, I know. But maybe we do not have to be the ones doing the rescues. Maybe we can organize something bigger. A network. People working together to free slaves and get them to safety. Nari looked at him, like an underground railroad. Exactly. That would take time, resources, people willing to risk their lives. We have time now. We are stuck here anyway, and I think there are more people like us than we realize. People who are tired of watching slavery continue. Part 5. The Trial of Principles. The 3 days of waiting felt like 3 years. Day spent the time pacing their quarters, unable to rest. Nari tried to stay busy by sewing the blue cloth she had bought. She made a small blanket, carefully stitching each piece. What will you do if we lose? Day asked on the second day. I told you. I will run. I will find a way to disappear. And if they catch you? Nari stopped sewing and looked at him. Then I will have fought for my freedom. That is more than I had before I met you. Whatever happens, I am not the same person who sat in that cage. They can put chains on my body, but they cannot put them back on my mind. Day wished he had her courage. On the morning of the third day, they received word that the judges had reached a decision. The courtroom was packed with people from dozens of worlds. News of the case had spread across the galaxy. Some species supported Day. Others were furious at him. This case had become bigger than just one human and one freed slave. The 3 judges entered and took their seats. The head judge was a tall, thin alien named Vorath. He had lived for over 200 years and had served as a judge for most of that time. His face was unreadable. We have reviewed the evidence and arguments from both sides, Vorath said in a deep, slow voice. This case has forced us to consider questions that many species have debated for centuries. What is freedom? What are rights? Can traditions be wrong? The courtroom was completely silent. We find that the defendant, Day, did technically violate existing commercial law by destroying the slave contract without following proper procedures. The fine for this violation is 20,000 credits. Day felt his heart sink. 20,000 credits, the exact amount he had paid for Nari. It was money he did not have, but Vorath was not finished. However, we also find that the laws supporting slavery are morally questionable at best. Several species represented in this court have abolished slavery in their own territories, recognizing it as a violation of sentient rights. The fact that slavery remains legal in parts of the galaxy does not make it right. Tors, the guild lawyer, stood up. Your Honor, we are not here to debate morality. We are here to enforce law. Sit down, Counselor, Vorath said sharply. I am not finished. Tors sat. Regarding the status of Nari, Vorath continued, we must determine whether she is property or a person. After hearing her testimony and reviewing the evidence, we find that Nari is clearly a sentient being with thoughts, feelings, and the capacity for self-determination. Therefore, she cannot be considered property under any reasonable interpretation of sentient rights. Murmurs filled the courtroom. The guild lawyers looked angry. Nari grabbed Day's hand. However, Vorath said, and the room went quiet again. The question of her legal status remains complex. While we recognize her personhood, galactic law requires that all free individuals have citizenship somewhere, or the means to support themselves independently. Without these, her freedom cannot be officially recognized. That is ridiculous, Minho said, standing up. You are saying she is a person but cannot be free? I am saying, Vorath replied, that freedom requires more than the absence of chains. It requires a place in society, a way to live independently. Then I will provide that, Day said, standing as well. I offer Nari a formal position as co-owner of my ship. She has proven herself as a skilled mechanic and navigator. We are equal partners. And I will sponsor her for human citizenship, Minho added. The human colonial government has already agreed to this. Nari will have full rights and protections under human law. Vorath looked at the other two judges. They conferred quietly. Then Vorath nodded. Very well. Nari is hereby declared a free person with full rights. The bounty placed on her is void. She is under the protection of human law. Anyone attempting to capture or harm her will face severe consequences. The courtroom erupted. Half the people cheered. The other half shouted in anger. The guild lawyers were already packing their things, looking furious. Day pulled Nari into a hug. She was crying, but this time they were tears of joy. We won, she whispered. We actually won. You won, Day corrected. You stood up and told your truth. That is what changed their minds. But their celebration was cut short. Krev appeared at the edge of the courtroom, his yellow eyes fixed on them. He did not look angry or disappointed. He looked thoughtful. After the hearing ended, Krev approached them. Minho and Hana immediately stepped between him and Nari, but Krev held up his hands. I am not here to fight, Krev said. His voice was deep and rumbling like distant thunder. Then why are you here? Day asked. The bounty is void. My contract is finished. But I wanted to say something before I leave. Krev looked at Nari. My people, the Skaloth, were slaves once. 400 years ago. We were owned by the Vrelians, the same species as that lawyer who prosecuted you. How did you gain your freedom? Nari asked. We fought. We killed our masters and took our freedom by force. It was bloody and terrible, and we lost millions of lives. Krev paused. But you did something different. You used words and law and truth. You made them see you as a person. That is harder than fighting and maybe more important. Does this mean you support abolishing slavery? Minho asked. No, Krev said bluntly. I hunt people for money. I do not care about politics or morality, but I respect strength, and you showed strength today. He looked at Day. You risked everything for a stranger. That is warrior behavior. Your people are interesting, human. With that, Krev turned and walked away. They never saw him again. Over the next few days, Day paid the 20,000 credit fine by taking a loan from Hana. Nari's citizenship papers were processed. She was now officially a resident of New Jeju with full rights and protections. But something unexpected happened. The case had made news across the galaxy. Messages started arriving from other slaves, people begging for help. Some were Valerians like Nari. Others were different species. All of them had heard the story and wanted to be free. One message in particular caught Nari's attention. It was from a Valerian named Yuna. Nari, I do not know if you remember me. We were friends before the raiders came. I was captured too. I am being held on Vrolix Prime. They are going to sell me to the mines next week, please. If there is any way you can help, please try. I do not want to die in the dark. Nari read the message 3 times. Then she showed it to Day. I know her, Nari said quietly. She was my best friend. We played together every day. I thought she was dead. The mines are a death sentence, Day said. If she goes there, she will not last a year. We have to help her. Going back to Vrolix Prime would be insane. The guild is furious at us. Beck probably has new bounties ready. It would be suicide, I know. But I cannot leave her there, not when I know what it is like to be free. Nari looked at Day with desperate eyes. You saved me. Help me save her. Day wanted to say no. The smart thing would be to stay on New Jeju, rebuild his savings, and live a quiet life. But when he looked at Nari, he knew he could not refuse. All right, he said, but we cannot do this alone. We need help. They went to Hana. She listened to their plan and shook her head. This is dangerous. If you get caught, the hearing victory will not protect you. Vrolix Prime is not human territory. I know, Day said. But we have to try, Hana sighed. Then you will need people. I can send a few volunteers. Former military. People who know how to handle themselves in a fight. Minho also offered to help. I can create legal documents. False manumission papers. If we can get Yuna and any others out of the slave markets legally, it will be easier than trying to sneak them out. Over the next week, they planned the operation carefully. They recruited a small team of 5 humans who were willing to risk the journey. They also contacted June, a pilot who had worked with humans before and knew Vrolix Prime security systems. This is insane, June said when they explained the plan. But I hate the slavers. I will help. The plan was simple in theory but dangerous in practice. They would arrive at Vrolix Prime as traders. Minho would use his legal expertise to forge documents claiming they were authorized to purchase specific slaves for research purposes. They would get Yuna and any other Valerians they could save, then leave before anyone realized the documents were fake. The night before they left, Nari could not sleep. She sat in the garden of the guest house looking at the stars. Day found her there. Having second thoughts? No, I'm just thinking about all the others. Even if we save Yuna and a few more, there are millions of slaves across the galaxy. What we are doing is just a drop in the ocean. Maybe, Day said. But every drop matters. Every person matters. We cannot save everyone, but we can save someone. Do you think it will ever really end? Slavery? I do not know. But I think it is starting to change. Our case made news everywhere. People are talking about it. Some species are starting to question their own laws. Change is slow, but it is happening. Nari nodded. I just want Yuna to feel what I feel. To know what it is like to choose her own path. To sleep without fear. To be a person instead of a thing. Then we will give her that chance. The next morning, they boarded a transport ship heading for the outer systems. Nari looked back at New Jeju one last time, wondering if she would ever see it again. Ready? Day asked. Yes, Nari said. Let us bring her home. Part 7. Ripples of Freedom. 6 months passed. Dai and Nari worked from the shadows, building something bigger than either of them had imagined. They called it the Chain Breakers. It started small. Hana connected them with other humans who hated slavery. Minho used his legal expertise to create documents that could help freed slaves establish new identities. Somin, Tejo, and Inho recruited others willing to risk rescue missions. But the real breakthrough came when Yuna recovered. She had connections with other Valerians across the galaxy. People who had been slaves or had family members in bondage. These connections became a network of information. They learned where slaves were being held, when they were being transferred, and which guards might be bribed. Within 3 months, the chain breakers had freed 43 slaves. Within 6 months, the number was over 200. The Slavers Guild was furious. They increased bounties and hired more hunters, but they could not stop the movement. For every person they caught, 5 more joined the cause. Day stood in the converted warehouse that served as their headquarters. Maps covered the walls, showing trade routes and known slave markets. 20 volunteers worked at terminals, coordinating rescues and tracking incoming refugees. Nari entered carrying a datapad. We just got word from the Outer Rim. The slave market on Talion Station was raided by local authorities. Apparently, some of the freed slaves we sent there testified about the abuse they suffered. The station government shut the whole market down. That is 3 markets closed this year, Day said, smiling. The guild is not going to let this continue. They are losing too much money. Good, let them lose everything. But Nari looked worried. I heard something else. A big operation is being planned. The guild is hiring a team of elite hunters. They are coming for us specifically. For the leadership. Before Day could respond, alarms blared. Someone was attacking the warehouse. Everyone out the back exits. Day shouted. Emergency Plan 7. The volunteers scattered quickly, following escape routes they had practiced dozens of times. Dai and Nari ran toward the command center to wipe the computer systems. Explosions rocked the building. Armed figures poured through the front entrance. These were not local security. These were professional soldiers. Go! Day pushed Nari toward the exit. I will handle the computers. I am not leaving you. Nari, you are the face of this movement. If they capture you, they will execute you publicly as a warning. Go. Nari hesitated for 1 second. Then she ran. Day worked frantically at the terminal, deleting files and erasing records. Behind him, he heard footsteps approaching. He finished the deletion and turned around. 5 armed soldiers surrounded him. Behind them walked a familiar massive figure, Krev. You, Day said. Me, Krev confirmed. The guild hired me specifically for this job. They wanted someone who would not fail. I thought you respected what we were doing. I respect strength, but I also respect contracts. They paid me a lot of money to bring you in. Day backed against the terminal. There was nowhere to run. So what now? You capture me and collect your bounty? Krev studied him for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He waved the soldiers away. Leave us, Krev said. But the contract says, one soldier began. I said leave. The soldiers looked confused, but obeyed. When they were gone, Krev stood alone with Dai. I told you my people were slaves once, Krev said. We fought for our freedom with blood and violence. It took us 50 years and cost millions of lives. But we did it. We became free, I remember. Since then, my people have hated the Vrelians. We blame them for our suffering. But we also became like them. We took slaves of our own. We told ourselves it was different because we had earned our freedom through strength. But it was not different. It was the same cruelty. Day stayed silent, not sure where this was going. Watching you and Nari over these months, I have thought about this a lot. Krev continued. You freed one slave and started a revolution. Not with violence or war, but with simple kindness. You showed people another way. A better way.